grab a drink. It's time for another episode of Off the Record, On the Rocks. Join Michael Toner and Ankarina Lara as we discuss the latest in all things Web3, AI, metaverse, and crypto. Tune out the noise and turn up the signal as we pour ourselves into the future. Better make mine a double.
VIP special access into the east wing of the White House. Get to see the holiday decorations. My kids they're not going to have the same appreciation that my wife and I have going in to do this for the very first time. These guys are, 6 and 7 years old. I'm going to be, on my best behavior going into the White House, and I'm expecting the same from them. I don't want any run-in with the Secret Service. But it'll be fascinating to see like how deep into the belly of the beast the tour actually goes, because I'm sure it is, it's kind of a Disneyland rigged with velvet ropes in front of the rooms and that sort of thing. That I get, but I still want to be like in the middle of the building. And maybe Jill or Joe will be there. Or maybe one of these. I think they kicked out all the dogs. I think all the dogs got sent home.
Major just can't stop biting people. I don't know what his problem is. He's not even an old dog. He's just real violent. Well, I mean, just remember, if anyone asks you, if you see anybody who's in like a power suit, could be blue, could be gray, and on like nice heels, and if they start asking you questions like, Mr. Toner, have you ever owned a cold storage device, or have you ever used a VPN? The answer to both those questions is no. I've never used a VPN, and I've never used cold storage.
What does
if
that
you say
stand for?
Yes to any of those things, they're gonna tackle you down right down in the atrium.
Yeah, well, if the question starts with have you ever been involved in, if it starts with that on anything, I'm just I'm gonna be really skeptical, especially if they start running my name against the extorting billions via an SEC tribunal. That one really sticks out to me from last week's episode of, man, we are poking the bear here.
Well, we're not only poking we've been poking the bear, but then you went to the press club, which is kind of like the Bear's Den adjacent, started poking, Gary Gensler, that bear, and then went to the Bahamas looking for Sam Bankman-Fried and tried to go poke that bear in that cave. And now you're going into the White House. Well, so if nothing else, if you can bring a phone, you said. So if anyone asks, have you ever been involved in that's your cue to start recording on voice memo.
Yes. And
just get into a conversation so we can maybe open up another show with some White House security guy trying to shake you down. Because if he recognizes you from our feed, that's going to be a big +1. big positive thumbs up.
I mean, full on background checks, passports for the kids. Like we had to do the whole 9 yards. So should be exciting way to kick off the holidays. I mean, I don't even know where to begin today. Like there's a bunch to go through, even in what should be this quiet period heading into the Christmas holiday. I mean, still a lot of talk about AI. Elon going crazy, spouting off to Bob Iger, which is super interesting. Disney enters the group chat in a very interesting way to make that dot all the way back around to what does Disney have to do with free speech and Twitter and X, and why does Elon not want their advertising money? All of that to me seems really relevant to what's happening in the space, in the tech space, and also kept Elon in the news right before the Cybertruck announcement. What else has been going on? Bitcoin, new all-time highs. I mean, it's on a tear. Fed speak.
I think what you're describing is we are in that little swirl, this little sideways pool as we go before the holidays. There was a lot of big fireworks leading up to and through Thanksgiving. We covered all that before. Today, just for our listeners, is Monday, December 4th. We are recording after the weekend. 2 full weeks, quote unquote, of work days before that funny week before the Monday Christmas, where most people start taking off, days somewhere in the Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're in that stretch of 10 more business days, as they say, and what could happen. On top of all that Elon news, like you said, when he kind of comes ripping back into that convo, I was imagining that same way he kind of ripped in that time with Zuckerberg, and then it went from a few tit-for-tat tweet to X to posts, to then suddenly we're like having an iron cage, like judo wrestling match. So I'm kind of hoping when he comes in to Bob Iger and starts, jawing at him, the next thing you know, we're talking about those two guys like putting on oversized like Bob Hope novelty boxing gloves and doing like a celebrity boxing match. But I was in the Bay Area this weekend, and I got to send you this video. I couldn't get it out because I was too busy. But I had a Cybertruck in the wild, pulling up alongside of it along the freeway. And apparently my sister said that they're driving them all the time up around the Bay Area. They're like, she was like not even plus. She was just like, oh yeah, it's another one of those. And there was just some, person driving it, like clearly taking notes on some phone or whatever. That whole, we got to get into that, of course. But then the Sam Altman news that keeps kind of peeking in and out is like, now that he's a person of interest, all of a sudden there's all these questionable deals he was making, like some of those boardroom consistency comments that we had heard about why it was they wanted to oust him, and it was all under the woman toner who was all about the altruistic economics. Like that was a nice, I think, storyline. But now it's kind of seeming like maybe he had done a bunch of side business deals that were in his better interests only, and not for anyone else in the company, and maybe didn't talk too much about it. I don't know. That's another thing there. And then on all this AI and military talk is also starting to make me very nervous, because we started talking about it almost jokingly when Xi Jinping came to visit San Francisco. And, hey, no nukes, right? AI can't have nukes, but AI can have other things. And then all of a sudden we're learning about all those other things. And I don't think I had really grasped just how much modern military is using AI, even like present day, not even about what's coming, like what's happening right now. So to me, AI, again, it's the bell, it keeps ringing, right?
Yeah.
Crypto, can't hear about crypto. AI, just doom.
Well, we've got to solve for this. We got to be able to create a marketplace. And if AI is an existential threat, then we've got to solve the AI first. I'll take that military piece as a jumping off point. We can kind of go through each of those.
Totally.
But
let's go
in
backwards.
the days leading up to that Xi Jinping meeting, I remember it was like a Forbes article that said, like, the US wants China to start talking about AI for military. I'd have to go back and find the headline.
Yeah.
But even the way it was written, it was like, we want them to start talking about this. And now, and in the news that you sent from Business Insider, and I had seen several others, there are panel discussions of these, military chiefs up on stage talking about the use of artificial intelligence for drone technology, for tracking, and what are the implications of that? It's massive in terms of, the AI doesn't miss. Which also is kind of a weird one, but I'll draw a line with a lot of the marketing around the damn Cybertruck really felt focusing in on the Tommy gun shooting bullets at this door as a marketing stunt really feels like it's driving home the existential crisis around AI and the use of military. And here comes a solution, right? I don't know. It's a weird connection to me, but it did feel like there was an overemphasis on the bulletproof nature of the truck, and I just wonder how much of that is playing into the changing use of AI in military.
A lot of it's playing into it. So I was at the LA Auto Show. I think we talked about this two recordings ago. And the LA Auto Show, in between the two main halls, there's the West Hall and the South Hall. There's a couple other halls. There's like a concourse with a K and a few other areas where there's like the smaller, the smaller booths can set up. So in between areas, you usually find the custom stuff, like the really cool guys who are like lowering cars and like glowing and blah, 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 music and everything. But then if you come out to the upper area, which is outside, it has all of it. And I forget there's a term. They don't call it bulletproofing. It's armoring. But there's an upstairs area where you can go and see all these armored vehicles, these aftermarket companies who are there. And this was a very full area of people getting interested.
It's like a full industry.
And one of it, it's what you'd expect, these like big kind of, it's like a Hummer kind of a car that's armored, and it looks like it's a tank, And then they say, their whole shtick is, here's the armor that's on this crazy Hummer that we've modified, and it looks like a battle tank. Almost has everything but a turret on top, basically, right? And then it says, but the same armor is on these vehicles as you walk down the road, down the line. And there's a nice Mercedes. There's like the executive Lincoln. There's the BMW. There's all these cars that look like normal cars. Then you can kind of get up to them. They don't let you get inside of them. But I could get up and like tap on the window. You can kind of look and go, oh yeah, you can see that the window was way thicker. And you can see that this. And then they rate it with the kinds of guns that the bullets can resist. And so I remember during the Cybertruck, the Tommy gun is a certain caliber rating. I want to say it shoots like 44 Magnum slugs, right? Tommy guns, something powerful like that.
I do remember them specifically talking about this.
They
but
talk about it. So there's this ranking that showed like, okay, AR-15 and AK-47 was called like level 8 or 9. And that's what this was rated at. And then it tells you the rating of number of grenades,
oh my
explosions it could take if you were to roll the grenade under the car. Because I guess that's one of the main ways these people who are interested in killing people in armored cars over the years figured out that shooting the bulletproof glass is not going to work. They put a grenade underneath and, of course, the whole car blows up. So this was a 2-grenade rated Mercedes that I was looking at. So absolutely, when these guys are talking about Tommy guns and Cybertrucks, and when you look at the Cybertrucks, it's like a convoy of warthogs that Master Chief would be dropping onto the Halo. It looks like military. And
it does.
If the average farmer or the average contractor is not going to buy a Cybertruck pickup, then I would say that everything we just said gives it a nice runway to be sold to militaries all over the country as autonomous electric battle cars. I mean, the Cybertruck, we might be seeing the testing, of the weapons that are going to be coming for us in the future on our own roads today. It puts you back in your chair a little bit when you start thinking about like, why is everything so darn bulletproof these days? It really makes you wonder.
It is. I'm reading this article from Business Insider. The Pentagon is moving toward letting AI weapons autonomously decide to kill humans. This is from Tom Porter. So it's November 22nd, but just talking about how the U.S. is among countries arguing against new laws to regulate AI-controlled killer drones. So the U.S., China, and others are developing so-called killer robots. Critics are concerned about the development of machines that can decide to take human lives. My connection there, back to what we're talking about the Cybertruck, is think about, the narrative for so long has been full self-driving. I had this conversation today about why is Elon always in this discussion around AI, aside from he was the seed money for Sam Altman, but the computer vision that they put into Teslas to be able to make sure that the car doesn't hit pedestrians, doesn't kill humans. Well, you can imagine if there's technology being built in the vehicle to not do that.
It's just a switch you turn off.
It's right? Like that makes a lot of sense, that if it's capable of deciding not to hit something, then it is capable of locking in on that same target. And I don't know if you saw the same viral video I saw going around, but it was a guy doing facial tracking, just like you would see on a Snapchat filter, but think about the computer vision that the camera is enabling there to put a marker on your forehead. And no matter how fast you're moving, no matter how fast you're running, no matter what direction you're turning, the AI doesn't miss. The computer is smart enough to adjust. And you have to imagine that militaries are thinking about what does that mean for modern warfare. And I heard this term, I was watching this speech of these military leaders all up on a stage. I don't even know what conference it was. It might've been here in DC. I'm not even sure. But they were talking about, and they used the term, they didn't say unmanned. It wasn't an unmanned scenario, but they were talking about like a full F-16. When I talk about drones, or you read this article, or I just described like letting drones use AI, everyone has a picture in your head of what I just described. And it looks like a little DJI drone with 4 little quadcopters that can sit on your desk, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if that drone were the size of an F-16 jet and it just didn't have a pilot in it, but it could fly remotely, just like as if it did have a pilot? Why do we need to put
you're
folks
dead right.
in harm's way? And I think that's where this is going, of like, what is modern warfare? What is the battlefield? Are we in the metaverse? Is World War III already being fought inside of this digital first AI driven warfare? And then I've got one more to go, but I'll get your take on that drone story.
Imagine getting in the car, with wifey for a nice date out, in my new Cybertruck, and I can go from eco to comfort to off-road to murder. Just turn off all the safety features and just have it run roughshod over the battlefield as we get ourselves out to, Il Fornaio for some pasta. No, I'm kidding. So I'll take it one step further really quick. But like you said, when you hear AI and drone, everyone thinks there's some kid with the goggles and they got the little double controller, like the Xbox controller,
Right.
and you hear the sound up in the air. And we know these things like the Reapers are kind of like little planes. Sometimes they have the quadcopter, sometimes they fly, and then these missiles come out of nowhere and blow things up. AI in the battlefield, and there's an article I just caught this morning, and I sent it to you just now, is that Israel is employing an AI that they refer to, and this is where I'm not making no commentary on anything I'm about to say, besides just detailing the facts as I read them. But the military in Israel is using an AI GPT type tool that's referred to as the gospel. And the gospel has data points being fed into it about the movement of Hamas fighters all around these areas.
Being trained in real time.
And they're training in real time because apparently what's happened was, well, there's all this collateral damage, and the Israeli government is positioning this like this is to prevent collateral innocent damage. How does that work? Well, in the old days, if we started to shoot a rocket, well, then all of the enemy fighters would go underground, and then we can't see them. So now we don't know where we're shooting, so now we end up hitting innocent people. So how do we solve that problem? Well, if we use AI that can track via satellites, via drone footage, via people's like real live check-ins on technology, because these are people running around doing stuff, that they can identify more real time where all these enemy combatants are. And the statistic that was so dark and bizarre is like we used to be able to target reliably 100 targets in a year in terms of where we knew that the high level, Hamas lieutenants were hiding. Today we can do 100 a day. That was this guy's big like quote. And I couldn't even believe as I was reading it, because even the name of it, just everything about it, it's showing you that while we are in our, out of one side of our mouth talking about how we are hoping to start to have conversations with China about AI and military, that's how it's like, no, all these guys have been talking about this for like the last 10 years. Maybe they didn't call it AI back then. They called it high tech, whatever. But now it's currently being employed. And now suddenly it almost feels like maybe people feel it's okay to talk about it now because it's now something that's in everybody's mind is AI. Whereas this is brand new today. And like this giant article hits of like, oh, hey, we've been, it's like, oh, wow, there really are using killer robots, like you say. And then it's a matter of time before the police in your neighborhood have it, and there'll be little bots driving around, serving you lunch, but they might have a gun mounted on them. Who knows?
Or I'm ordering my Chinese food from the Panda Express AI in the drive-thru. You sent me that link as well, right? Like this, when you say that now we're comfortable talking about it, I go to kind of my, anthropologic AI technology mindset, or just AI, let me rephrase that, like studying technology, and AI is this next generation of this. And yeah, there's now language to use. We talked about this in one of the last episodes of like training models and LLMs and all these things that are almost like repeating. These aren't new. Or we're talking about like retrieving data. Well, isn't that search? Like, what's the difference? We're just talking about it differently. There's now a framework to have a consumer grade discussion around AI, whether that's ordering food, whether that's creating business plans with GPTs, or whether that's dropping bombs on other countries. And I think that shows you just how pervasive and how important, rules and regulations and government, politicians starting to now talk about the use of AI. One of the other things that came up, and I got to find this interview. I'll send it to you. Yeah. This with these military folks on the panel talking about AI, they started to talk about quantum computing and layered on this whole other layer. When you reference that you could move from 50 targets a year or 100 targets a year to 100 targets a day, think about quantum computing and the scale and the speed that you could now calculate anything for that matter. And they started talking about encryption and how quantum computing coupled with modern warfare raises this whole other discussion around access and encryption. Think about like I'll say we joke, but people, when I reference the suitcase, that stays with the president at all times, what I'm talking about. Like that's a known thing. Well, why is that? It's almost like a seed phrase. It's almost like the code, right? It is essentially, it's the keys. gosh, I'm going to this whole crazy place in my head now.
Are you talking about both of us turning our seed phrases at the same time and accidentally firing a nuke? Is that what we're saying?
We're right. We that control, that self-custody, when the moment you then layer on artificial intelligence with quantum computing, the ability to decrypt something becomes exponentially easier. If I need to just run 50 billion permutations of the seed phrase against it, I could do that like pretty quickly, right? The computer could do that and guess the code. That's wild. It just changes the game of modern warfare.
Well, it certainly changes the game of encryption, right? I mean, what we're saying is quantum computing is going to usher in an entire new era of effectively like super ciphers that can go back. I mean, you would expect the newest tech should crack the oldest safe combos, right? Like the YEG and the counterfeiter are always one step ahead of the mint and the banks. So if that's true, then I think, look, business ideas, everyone who's a listener should sign my NDA. You cannot do this before me, but it sounds like if you're in the business and wanting to make a defensible, new, interesting company in the next 5 years, figuring out how to make encryption and privacy and bringing it back around to all the things that we talk about when it pertains to technology and, say, families and kids and importance of data and protection online and everything else, as much as we are so excited about these, nanosecond computations that eclipse the computation of an entire 10-year decade, in what's less than a second. If you're telling me that's what's coming, then it sounds to me like we have an opportunity to have an equally robust response for, well, then what are the protections that we're going to build? How is my password safe if, Johnny Quantum can just pull it out of a hat within 3 seconds? That there's going to need to be a commensurate build on both sides of this. Otherwise, the criminals are going to run away with the spoon. I mean, it's going to be very leaning too far forward, not shoring up all of our current tech. I mean, as it is, Target can't keep 30 million Americans data safe.
Right.
And it's not like Target's doing anything super outrageous. They're just selling shampoo. Now we're talking about, deciding if drones should be flying over your town, shooting missiles into a house that they think someone bad is in that's right next door to yours. These are the same jobs, but applied two different ways. That's the part where I think we're not really thinking it through all the way. We like these talking points, but everyone sort of casually jokes, like you said, like, oh, well, at least it's not controlling nukes. But there's a lot of other really bad things that could be going on that it's controlling that are short of a nuke.
Yes. I mean, I think that's crazy. The last episode, I know we went to this crazy dystopian place. It feels like we're going there again, maybe because we started with the military side of it, but it's wild to think about the changing dynamics here. We haven't even gotten to the crypto, side of things, but I'll try to shift us there, which is
let's peel us from this into just some. Let's go back to the big companies. Then let's end with crypto, because if we talk, you just said modern warfare. That should have been my cue, because Modern Warfare 3 just launched, and it's the biggest game on Xbox, and they're making tons of money. Microsoft. So Microsoft, they're not Halliburton, right? They're not Northrop Grumman. They're not selling actual munitions and ordnance and using it in the real world. But as it happens, they are selling digital ordnance to millions of gamers. This is my little bridge. Hopefully it works. Into the Modern Warfare metaverse that Microsoft now fully owns. And remember, if you're in the business of testing AI, hopefully, before you would roll it out, and you're in the business of testing AI that could be applied to military programs, what a better place, Sammy Altman and OpenAI, to come over here next to me, Satya Nadella, and Microsoft, and over here next to all these guys who, well, their chairs are empty. They recently jumped ship from Activision, but see you later. We have all these other guys over here at Call of Duty, and we're going to test AI in the metaverse in a war environment. And then we'll report back to the government about what works and what doesn't. So I feel like now, I mean, gosh, Bob Iger, Satya Nadella, Elon Musk. I mean, I feel like Elon Musk, the only person he hasn't trolled lately has been Microsoft. But he clearly has his hands on the lapels of a few other people. And he's been trolling Sam Altman. He's been trolling now Bob Iger. Like, talk to me about some of that. I know you've been following that a lot more closely.
I'm just still like, yes, I'm still
I'm trying to pull you
processing
out of
this,
dystopian military brain. I'm trying.
but it still went back there too, to
I
like, they've
know.
got the training ground for this environment. I mean, yeah, it's and then if you have that training ground and you wanted to run every permutation of every possible outcome based on these criteria, you would run an AI through some, supercomputer, and you'd be able to predict what the outcome is. If this happens, if that happens, every permutation could then be game played, gamified, exactly, which is just wild to think that may be what's happening.
Spoiler alert. America always wins in all the simulations. Otherwise, people stop playing the game.
Oh, man. All right. So I'm going to bring us to, speaking of America and on the global scale, a couple things caught my attention. Bukele talking about their holdings are now in the black. So here we'll go to the positive side of decentralization, of de-dollarization in some ways. He's coming out saying now with this new all-time high that they're up, whatever it is. It was a small number. I think it was like he's made like 3 million in profit, but they're in the black based on the number of Bitcoin that they own. And then I saw MicroStrategy buying another big tranche of Bitcoin. I forget what they're now up to in terms of the holding.
What wasn't it, like 150 million Bitcoins?
I'm gonna look.
It was an insane number of Bitcoins.
MicroStrategy buys 593 million in Bitcoin, may raise up to 750 million in new stock sale. So they're accumulating.
I was a little high on that, but yeah, they're accumulating big, and I think Bukele might have even used the word Uptober in one of his posts,
nice.
Which is like for those who don't know, Uptober is like a crypto, lunatic term for that. I guess in the history of crypto, the value on October 1 has always been lower than on Halloween. So if you buy on the 1st and just hold until on Halloween, you're going to be up somehow. But he was even talking about October. And that's also on the heels, we mentioned, of the Argentinian, the new president, who's basically all for this. And Bukele, for those who don't remember, El Salvador is a country that is beginning to leverage its natural resources and its unique sort of topography for the purpose of mining Bitcoin. And what is that? Well, they have more active volcanoes than anywhere. And they have these crazy hydro plants set up where water flows in, so the magma creates steam, turns turbines, mines Bitcoin. And so, like, being in the black, I mean, think about that. I don't think it's every day that a Central or South American country comes out on social media talking about how they're not in debt. Like, that's like a really big deal.
It's wild,
considering
right?
the World Bank and the IMF love keeping these guys in debt. So that's a huge deal. I mean, honestly, Bukele and the Argentinian guy, whose name I forget right now, you guys better stay safe. I want them buying up them bulletproof BMWs and everything else, because these guys are, I mean, come on, guys, stay safe.
Talk about self-custody of your money. I went to a place of like self-custody of your protection of your, like, I don't know. This is a crazy one. We'll have to take it another time. But like, at what point then does the privatization of security, the decentralization of like protection of American citizens today, that's a centralized function, right?
Yeah.
There's a centralized function who's responsible, and that cascades down to your local police and fire department. At what point am I going to have to like have a subscription, that's validated through my decentralized wallet that shows I've paid my taxes, that shows that I'm eligible for these services based on my contribution? I mean, that's a wild place to get to, of what these new technologies, what AI, what decentralized crypto, Web3, and this concept of self-custody could lead to, if you keep going down that path, that you would need to buy your own armored vehicle to protect your own assets. You are now the bank. You are now in charge of your own stuff. You own the keys, your crypto, your security, your privacy, your data.
Hot take. This might be the beginning. You might have just called the beginning of the collapse of the entire insurance industry. There isn't going to be an insurance industry. You're not going to be able to buy fire insurance. You're going to buy a subscription to the fire department. You're not going to be able to buy flood insurance. You're buying a subscription, I guess, also to the fire department. You're not going to be able to buy, medical insurance. You have to have a subscription to be a part owner, an Airbnb of a hospital bed. Like, if you don't have this subscription that says it's yours, you have a piece of paper that says you can maybe be covered if there's enough resources. Like, that doesn't sound very convincing anymore. I think what you described, take your own ownership. You become your own bank. you become your own lattice work of local and regional resources
of what you need. And to me, there is a kind of a beautiful efficiency in that. I know that may be counterintuitive and maybe get some folks upset and somebody tell me when I'm wrong, but there's a beautiful efficiency of like, I don't have to pay for things I don't want or don't need, or it's a fascinating way to look at it.
Again. And by the way, if everyone's using the same money, gosh, doesn't it make everything even more simple? Because the value doesn't ever have to get, converted, or there's no boutique of money changers required across any level, from the guy down the street to the, JP Morgan.
Well, I think this is part of this discussion happening right now. Bitcoin breaking above 42,000 currently. So, I mean, we went from, we started the week here at below 40, maybe even lower than that, to hit what is now all-time high for the year, right? Like I'm
for the year, I think it's 67, 68 last year before FTX cratered.
Yeah. So passing the 42, my point there is, this is being covered on CNN. I'm looking right now, 5 hours ago, Bitcoin hits highest level in 18 months as investors gear up for ETF approval. Wall Street Journal.
Hey, buy the rumor, sell the news.
I mean,
I love that. Like, gosh, it's 42. Get in now while you can, because we're so excited for the ETF. Watch that thing dip. I mean, look, that thing popped because we just said those two giant whales just purchased a ton of Bitcoin. Like, that's why, for anyone who wants to know how these markets work on a very simple level, if no one's doing anything, it stays flat. And then as soon as someone starts to sell a whole bunch, the price goes down. As soon as someone buys a whole bunch, the price goes up. So whenever you see the excitement in the market, is it really the excitement in the market? Or is it Michael Saylor, Jeff Bezos, and one other clown just buying a whole bunch to load up? And that's what artificially pops it. I don't know.
We haven't talked about our total switch in the world power dynamics. We may have talked a little bit about this, but you got Henry, you got Kissinger.
Oh, Kissinger, Munger.
You've got Charlie Munger. Talk about when you just said, like, when more people buy, but the price goes up. When more people are selling, the price goes down. That's the Berkshire Hathaway way, which is when others are being greedy, you should be fearful, and when others are fearful, you should be greedy. So finding that balance right now is super interesting, because I can tell you, I've been dollar cost averaging in, and I can tell you honestly, in the past 7 days, I've gone back and looked, and that was the best strategy for me, because there's moments here in the past 7 days where I'm like trigger happy, ready to buy a bag because I see it going up, and I'm having to hold myself back. And I'm, not financial advice, but because I'm watching this all-time high on the year. But, again, it sounds like if AI got the narrative around Thanksgiving, it feels like Bitcoin is about to get a Christmas present. It feels like we're flying into the holidays here. The Fed is easing back on interest rates. You're seeing the market explode. You're seeing CNN cover a new all-time high. Even the headline I just read, it said Bitcoin tops 42 as crypto market recovers to pre-Terra Luna levels. I mean, even the narrative,
even citing Terra Luna levels, because they can't say pre-FTX levels yet, because it's not. You know what I mean? They're using their markers to show. Right. Remember when we helped get those criminals? We're back to that. Then they're going to be like, new all-time high since Voyager, new all-time high since FTX. And they're going to keep telling you, reminding you. Remember, we were fixing all the broken stuff. Now, like I like it. Look, I'm just paranoid because, like you say, we all know when we say buy the rumor, sell the news. It's like, if CNN is saying it, you're already probably too late, right? Yeah. There's something we don't know because the big guys have already come in. But that's sort of one thought process I have. This other thought, to bring it back to the crypto world, like we've been tracking these spot ETF approval windows, and we pulled up the graphic from the SEC's website well before a lot of these other outlets even started showing it, which is interesting.
Yes,
a little star, a little feather in the hat. I'm off the record here, but they start showing that, and so. We're looking at it thinking, okay, well, why would they approve it in any of these windows until the last window? Because they don't have any incentive to do so, right? Right? If you approve it all too quick, well, then maybe Gary Gensler's job is threatened. Or if you approve it all too quick, maybe you leave your best friends out who can't buy into it. So we know it kind of is all steering towards April, and all these dates lining up in April. Everyone from Sam Bankman-Fried to CZ from Binance to Trump's going to be in court to the halvening happening for crypto and Bitcoin and all this stuff. So we know it's kind of careening towards that. So part of my, am I reading the tea leaves right? And I think I am, Brain, is if the government wants to make retail investors, AKA the American public, really excited about the spot Bitcoin ETF, then the stories they have to keep telling between now and April have to be good ones. While in the old days, I would think, okay, there's obviously going to be a flash sell cratering, like just one more crazy flash sell. While we're not 100% regulated right until Jan 1, 2025. So we have this funny window where we can kind of be crazy. What if some insane person like Musk comes out before Christmas announcing how he no longer believes in Bitcoin and he's selling all of his Bitcoin? And it just craters the price, just so him and all his pals can go in and get it cheap. Barring something quite like that, I just believe the narrative should be like you're saying. You said, better since Terra Luna, better since this disaster, better since this disaster. The story keeps building, and then you get to April and they're like, look,
we've been telling you
it's worth $100,000. So it makes it really easy for you to do the math. Do you have $5? Well, you have this much of a Bitcoin. Oh, now we all get it. And like I feel like they want to lead us to simple math, but I just wonder, because you can't control Elon. You can't control some of these guys. They want to, but they can't. So I'm just, yeah, I think you're right. Hold, don't be trigger happy. Something's in the air.
I think that's
something's
right.
In the water.
Knowing standard market dynamics, I don't, not financial advice. I know I've told you I've been looking at Elliott Wave principle and some of these theories that talk about like market trends of like how people move in terms of peer pressure, frankly, of like watching what other people are doing and then making decisions, et cetera, et cetera. That would indicate that, yes, that before we get to another all-time high, that there would be another dip, and to stay patient. Again, I'll go back to, I like my prediction here of, it does seem like Sam Altman stole the Thanksgiving narrative to me, at least here as we start December. In the first week of December, this Bitcoin narrative is heating up big time. Coinbase just put out a banger of a commercial. I don't know if you saw this one. Another heavy hitting television commercial. Break the cycle, update the system, and they take a straight up emotional approach to the broken system of, very similar to what we saw in their last banger of a commercial where they talked about the ACH transactions and waiting 5 to 7 days and the truck driving the cash around. They take that to the next level. It's worth checking out. I'll send you the link. But that to me, again, Coinbase, another player in this this US friendly crypto market coming to bear. Of I would not be surprised if you start seeing more and more Coinbase commercials start to ramp up. We're getting into college football season or for bowl games. Like, is Coinbase going to be running some big TV ads during these sporting events to get that, that everyday retail investor to go and open up a Coinbase account and start looking at what they have? I heard this narrative the other day. Like you can't afford to not have any crypto. It was from, we got to give a shout out to Gentlemen of Crypto. So,
yes.
Thank you. You tell the story, but it was on the show. I was watching when you gave the shout out for our show, for Off the Records. He was talking about like, look, it was one of the guests he had on. It was like, you can't afford to not have any. Like if you're sticking your head, I will call this financial advice and I will get the DOJ on me. But if you don't have even $1 worth, $5 worth, like why would you be sticking your head in and saying, no? Why wouldn't you want to at least try it, learn about it, experiment with it, buy $5 worth of crypto? But Gentlemen of Crypto deserve the shout out for you can't afford to not have any.
You got to have some. And also the part about it that's crazy is that the people who talk like they do, and then they don't have any, like it's just part of that. It's just amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing paradox, but it's something that it's like the narrative.
People understand it. I think people understand.
In order to understand, you got to be in, and a little bit, like you said, and your dollar cost averaging is right. That's the right way to do it. Don't go buying in big, buy in pieces like that. And one other thing, I think I caught you, I didn't get a chance to send it to you, but like some of the team has been, because I checked in with the team up in the Bay Area this week, has been checking in with a reInvent, which is Amazon's big event that just happened in Las Vegas. It was this past week. And lot of, their big opportunity to do their show and talk about their technology. And one of the interesting things I thought was not a lot of overt talk about AI, not a lot of overt talk about really anything except for optimizing existing systems that they've launched even many years ago now. So like the big news was how fast things are and how optimized they are, but not necessarily how new they are. And when you talk about, if you don't have a dollar, if you're not even in it a little bit, like, are you even a part of the conversation for real? And I found that same parallel to Amazon in this case, unfortunately, where it's like, well, right now it feels like you got to have something about AI, or even a halfway position. Because if you don't, how could you possibly be talking about it? And or even a part of like this new wave where you're powering the current internet, right? Amazon, Netflix, Google, Apple, Meta, et cetera, running all these pages. And yet this is not a conversation you're entering. But what I did see them talking about was about, you forwarded to me the note, but I was my head of engineering showed me, was Amazon is aligning itself with the Polygon network.
We've known this for a while, though. We covered this almost a year ago.
But this is them finally coming out and saying it. And you sent it to me, and I was like, yeah, but this is not new. This is Amazon reInvent. And not only is there no AI, there's a story about Polygon from a year ago.
Yeah.
And that made me wonder, like, I just don't know. Are we looking for something really big out of Amazon? Or is Amazon becoming more of the life commodity that we all know and love? And like really what Amazon is doing is trying to fire rockets up in the air with William Shatner or whatever. I'm trying to figure out really where they are now going to play in this Web3 space beyond just running the bits and bytes through the pipes.
Well, imagine the moment that they can put, developers could build on AWS using Polygon, which is what that article was. I come back to my hypothesis, my theory, that blockchain and AI are going to be inseparable. So maybe instead of them starting with the AI narrative, they're going to start with the scalable digital product passport narrative. Put every product you sell in your entire, ERP system. If you've got 1 million permutations of those shoes that you sell, then you've got to have a developer code out that product catalog inventory, put it into your sales system. And by the way, you could build that whole thing using our new Polygon APIs. And the moment you do that, you don't even, then it's just tick the box that says, do you want to run the AI algorithm to keep track of all this stuff? Because once it's on the blockchain, once it's on Polygon, it's indexable data. It's readable information that the algorithm could just go and pull back. Who bought it? How many did they buy? Who did they sell it to? What was the price point? What currency did they buy it? All the metadata that you would then get, that becomes that is the next, that's the afterthought. That's the tick the box. And yeah, I want that upsell. But first you got to build everything on the blockchain, put it on Polygon, then we'll run the AI algorithm later.
Ooh, I love it. I love that take. I mean, and then, hey, right, next year, get ready. GPT Marketplace as a service, right? We just saw OpenAI they punted the marketplace into next year, citing leadership confusion. But I'm wondering if everyone's coming in like, hey, wait a second, you're about to make a marketplace of GPTs and give them to everybody? We're going to talk about this a little bit before we do that, Mr. Nadella. Maybe Mr. Bezos and Mr. Nadella are actually going to be involved in figuring out how to man that. Because if you can't get the GPTs to anyone and they can't run, that would be a real great way to go get AWS as a consumer. Right now, AWS is sold to businesses and small and big. But what if AWS's next move is real far down market, powering the GPTs that every single Amazon customer will require? It'll be trained on your buying history and your internet history.
Well, but when you said you're waiting for Amazon to step into that AI game, that's the approach I see, which is I'm in my shopping app and it's showing me all the stuff I've searched for that I haven't bought. There's this Nikon camera that I put in my shopping cart 4 or 5 times and it keeps popping up. Like that suggestion algorithm that commerce has been known for, of tracking you around. That's the simple version. But I could see them applying the AI to that sort of programmatic learning about, all of this makes so much sense to me. I remember when Amazon made the button, that was the marketing gimmick, to order paper towels, right? You could just put the button right beside your paper towel dispenser and you click the button when you need that product, and hands off, don't have to think about it anymore. Well, what's the next iteration of that? It's you don't have to even press the button. It just knows. I mean, some of this is, it's wild to think about. All of these things have been said before of like, shouldn't it just know to reorder me more paper towels? Or it knows that it always takes me seven days to use my supply of whatever, of milk in the house. Like eventually the algorithm could just see those buying patterns and make suggestions to you. A lot of this is already happening. I think what we're describing is the scalability, the accessibility to small to medium sized companies, to small development shops, so that AWS doesn't have to be, that kind of technology could be deployed at a small local coffee shop that just wants to get to know how often their customers come in. Today, that's, Starbucks has access to AWS, but my local, coffee roaster down the street, they don't have that kind of data, but they could. They maybe should, if they want to survive in this new AI-driven world where all of their loyalty programs need to be on blockchain. And
bang bang. I think that's what I think you nailed it. Actually, what's odd to me is that, like, we talk about Apple, they change the narrative. They don't use the buzzwords everyone else uses. They find their own. In all their speeches, they never even say AI. They don't want to confuse you, or even they don't even want really you to think that they're a technology company. They want you to think that they're a lifestyle or entertainment company. Google, they love throwing the AI around. Other guys love it. Meta. But what's interesting about Amazon, all weights and measures, yeah, it's commerce and stuff, but it's a tech company. And guess what? They're smart as well, not throwing around the words everyone else is using. And they're going to use their own language to describe what you just said. And maybe this is a good opportunity for me to go uninstall all the webcams I hooked up in my fridge so I could have alarm set to see if my fruit was rotting. There's a better way.
More efficiency. I'm going to leave it there unless you've got any final projections heading into these next couple weeks of the holidays.
No, I think I'll talk to you next week. I have some interesting. Let's focus next week on privacy and on the way social media is going to be, I think, redefined in 2024. I think 2024 is the year that social media gets an upgrade, let's just say. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Social 3.0, you heard it here first. We'll do it again next week.
Great talking to you, Michael.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Off the Record, On the Rocks. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. See you next time for more news and all things crypto and Web3.